Law and Order, get ready for impeachment. Scott Dworkin of the Democratic Coalition is about to join us. First, though, we've got a few news headlines with our own Brittany Temple. You know what the headlines are, obviously, everyone.
Well, I'm here to catch anyone up if they were taking a nap yesterday, like I was when the news broke. All right. So as we know, yesterday was quite the day. Some of our listeners have called it Treason Tuesday.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. So a summary of what happened. Well, Michael Cohen pled guilty to 8 federal crimes, including an illegal payoff to Stormy Daniels, which he says Trump ordered. Though his crimes could have him facing 65 years in prison, Fox News has reported that he is expected to only serve 3 to 5 as part of that plea deal. The first 5 counts are tax evasion allegations, but it's the last 3 that are of interest. We've got 1 count of making a false statement to a financial institution, 1 count of willfully causing an unlawful corporate contribution from June 2016 to October 2016, and 1 count of making an excessive campaign contribution on October 27th, 2016. Then, over in Virginia, Paul Manafort was convicted of 8 federal crimes. Again, 8. I don't know what it is with that number. Carrying a sentence of up to 240 years. And in case you forgot, Manafort was Trump's campaign chairman before resigning in August of 2016, just 3 months before the election. Meanwhile, in West Virginia, Trump didn't even mention Cohen or Manafort's convictions at the rally. But he did say before the rally that Manafort was a good man whose conviction was very sad. He did mock his opponents, though, for not yet, in his view, proving collusion. And he did put on display his lack of understanding of what gestation means.
Gestation. Collusion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brittany, we appreciate that. Joining us now, as promised. Always good when we can talk to him. He's doing great work. At Funder on Twitter, at the Dem Coalition for the Democratic Coalition. Scott Dworkin joins us now. Scott, good morning to you, man. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Fine, man. This has been an incredible 24 hours, or 12 hours, really.
It really has been. It's been a long time coming for some justice to be served, and this is well deserved to two lifelong criminals here, and I'm glad that there's some, the flag flies a little bit higher, but we're still in tough times because we've got this guy, this buffoon, right now, in the presidency, and he should not be there anymore. He's an unindicted co-conspirator,
right?
And he should face charges, because if Michael Cohen pled guilty, then so. He should face charges as well. That's my feeling about it.
No, I would agree. And folks, 8 minutes past the hour, your questions and calls for Scott Dworkin. Get on board, 866-99-SERIES, 866-997-4748. He is an unindicted co-conspirator indeed, Scott. And, I mean, this really ought to be the beginning of the end. This is just the beginning. I mean, Cohen is just prepared, from what we know, to talk about the payouts to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. I want to run this hypothesis by you. Brittany was making fun of him saying gestation last night, talking about, you had to gestate the chicken and all of that, which was just utterly insane. I think that was Freudian, because Trump may very well have caused in the other payout that we were led to believe it was Brody. But the rumor is that Trump was the one that caused the other Playboy Playmate, to gestate and then paid for an abortion. So I'm wondering if that's fraud. And if that's true, Cohen's going to tell all of that, isn't he?
Yeah, and we never found out what happened with the guy who was the doorman who was paid off in that situation. And
Right.
He was the one who said that Trump impregnated somebody. And then he kind of went away. So, it's interesting to see a lot of these different kinds of criminal acts, because all of this was to benefit his campaign by hiding this. And he was so comfortable in that Cohen tape that was released of talking about cash and throwing around cash. Oh, we don't need to take out a loan or anything like that. Like just pay in cash. it's a criminal president, it's a mob boss talking like that, and I think that there's going to be a lot of crimes that come out because Cohen is the bag man. Don't forget that he was paid a lot of money by these corporations just for access to Trump. He was paid a lot of money by countries like Ukraine, who paid him $400,000 for access to Trump. And I'm betting that Trump got a cut of that money, on top of the fact that Cohen helped. He had plans for, a Trump Tower Moscow. They had land together for that already. So I'm sure that there's money involving that. He helped set up Trump Tower. He helped set up Miss Universe Moscow. He helped set up the potential reality show in Russia for their fighting reality show that they had in 2008 that never worked out. And so they have this longstanding part, and they also have his potential of breaking game show laws via Miss Universe, especially stretching back to 2002 when Putin's girlfriend was chosen. Tom Arnold told me on Sunday, who's doing this Trump tape show, he told me on Sunday that he had told the judges, instructed the judges back in the day to also vote for Putin's girlfriend, and that had made, I guess there's a couple people who are going to come forward on that as well. But Cohen knows about all of this. Cohen knows where the bodies are buried. Cohen knows where the money's hidden. This is a very big problem for Trump because there's nothing he can do about it at this point.
So, Scott Dworkin with us, folks, at 12 minutes past the hour. One of your latest tweets is, in fact, that Tom Arnold revealed the true inside story of how Michael Cohen turned on Trump. Can you walk us through that?
Sure, yeah. So Tom Arnold, funny enough, he's known Donald Trump for 30 years, and he basically let loose and came up with the timeline that's so descriptive. It was pretty amazing to hear, and there was just bombshell after bombshell in regards to things they had been involved with. Tom came to New York City, and he knew that Michael Cohen was staying at the Regency Hotel. And before the first Cohen tape came out, this is days before, he spent time with him. And during this time, he basically had started to publicly expose him. And basically he said that, Michael Cohen was just so nervous and, he was pretty serious about his family coming first, but at the same time, he didn't want to screw over Trump, and he was hopeful for a pardon, and that just he realized that's not going to happen. That's not how this works, and he basically was left out to die on the beach, and I think that's something that Tom made clear, but it's so descriptive. Tom talked for about an hour, and it's so descriptive. It's clear that he has a memory that few have, and it was the credibility in my mind went up from all the way to one of the top guys that I would trust, because he's working with a lot of different reporters on this to confirm his different stories, and what we've seen is to be completely accurate. But he talks about the meeting with Michael Cohen, the different meetings with Michael Cohen, and when he sits down with him and talks about, when he's going to release different tapes and the different tapes that he has and how he has hundreds of tapes, and lays out exactly, basically he kind of Tom Arnold talks Michael Cohen into releasing these tapes, and, trying to clear his name per se, help him out. But at the same time, Cohen went ahead and, released the tape on his own. But it was very clear that Tom played some sort of a role, at least a minimum, trying to talk him into it and pushing him in a certain direction, making it clear that, if you don't do this, then you're obviously completely screwed. And based on my experience of 30 years with Donald Trump, here's the people who have gone to jail around him. And it was kind of a reminder to Cohen of exactly what was to come. And I think that the reality sunk in very quickly, and he wasn't getting return calls from the president, and he got fed up, and then the tape came out days later, and it was clear to us on Sunday after I had talked to Tom, funny enough, that Cohen was going to be charged on Friday of this week, probably tomorrow. But they were going to make a show of it, I believe, where they would arrest him or force himself to turn himself in and surrender himself to the FBI like he did yesterday. But it's very clear that I never believed that he was actually going to flip, and now it's clear that he already has. He's done. He's already cooperating. He's been cooperating since at least Monday. So I would be very scared if I were Donald Trump at this moment, because again, the stuff that Cohen knows goes beyond the pale. He knows the criminal enterprise. He helped set it up. He knows where the payoffs were made, and again, he spills a lot of beans for Tom's show coming up on Viceland. So that'll be interesting to see.
When is that air?
September 17th, I believe.
Okay. So
when it starts.
Scott Dworkin with us, folks. 1:15, 866-99-Sirius. So Scott, what about Manafort? I mean, it's still pretty damning for 8 of the 18 counts for him to be found guilty. How much do you, just real quick, how much do you blame the judge for that? It seemed like the judge was really trying to sabotage this for the jury or for the prosecution.
Yeah, that was really interesting to see him. He was, he helped move it along, I guess, but at the same time, he was so adamant about attacking, you don't talk about, just because he lived a luxurious lifestyle doesn't mean that it was illegal.
Right.
And I, like, too many reminders like that. It's kind of like just be quiet and do your job. Like, we don't need all the different cartoony antics. This is a very serious thing. And then eventually, as the trial went on and they started deliberating, then he started saying, well, I got threats, and this is much more media attention than I ever expected we would get. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what did you think you were doing, playing patty cake? But he at the end of the day, I think that they're going to try and there'll be a third trial, that they have these other 10 charges where they at least try and put forward 5 or 6 of those charges, if not all 10, in addition to his case that is going to be in D.C. And as of now, I don't see him ever getting out of prison. The only way that he could is if he got a pardon.
Can Cohen, Scott, implicate Manafort in anything?
Yeah, so they have a lot of work in Ukraine together, and Cohen and Manafort have done a lot of work together. Not only that, Donald Trump was Manafort's first lobbying client in 1982. Manafort and Stone's first lobbying client ever, and so there's a lot of things that Manafort and Trump have worked on together, where Manafort has been the international sort of person in bad countries that would be bad money, and then Cohen was the middleman, especially with stuff in Russia. And Manafort's work in Russia and Trump's work in Russia. Cohen was the point person for everything Russian since 2006. And it went from Don Jr. more to Cohen, because Don Jr. wasn't closing in as many of the deals for laundering money through apartments and condos throughout the world for the Russian mob and the Russian government-related individuals. So Michael Cohen can definitely put the screws to Manafort, but I would say that the person who he can mostly and most has the evidence of is Donald Trump, and I'm guessing that he has enough where it gets him off.
It gets Cohen off, yeah. But you can probably 20 minutes past that. You can probably guess the reason I asked. Because I'm looking at whether or not Manafort's facing another trial upcoming. he could be, as you said, there could be a third trial for those 10 remaining counts. If Cohen can do more to harm Manafort, pretty soon, if not today, really, Manafort has a lot of incentive to flip.
Right.
Do you think he will?
I don't. I don't know. It's interesting because it doesn't make any sense for him not to.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a very brief timeline, because I'm guessing everyone is sprinting to the special counsel's office now, because they're kind of freaking out, and you don't know who's been talking. Like McGahn had been talking with them for 9 months, for 30 hours, and who else has been talking and spilling the beans like that? Eventually, you're of no use. And so, those stories are all going to come forward, and, Manafort's got to present those pieces of evidence as soon as possible, or he's not going to have any leniency put on him whatsoever. And I think he's still holding out hope that he's going to get a pardon, or he's going to have some sort of opportunity to get another signal from Trump that he's going to get one. And I don't know if he just has to try and face trial and try and get off of it. But right now, he's facing the rest of his life in prison, basically, because 10 years in your 70s that's basically the rest of your life. So I would assume for him it's to start to sink in, especially remaining in solitary confinement. 23 hours a day, small cell, no computer. Not real sunlight, an hour walking around in a pen by yourself. Eventually it's going to get old, and, I don't think he's going to be able to hold out much more than that, because I'm guessing it's still setting in, as in like, oh, wow, like I was found guilty on that. Wait until this next trial where they have evidence that I helped, with the invasion of Crimea, and where I helped, Putin come to power, and where I actually helped a lot of his advocates in Ukraine commit treason there, and murders and other things, blood money and drug trafficking and human trafficking and things like that are going to start to come out. And so if he does, there's not much room. He has about a 2-week window here where he probably can make a deal. I would assume that he has enough stuff. If he has enough stuff to help bring down Donald Trump, he could get off with with only a few years in prison. But at this point, they're both gonna probably spend some time in prison at the very least.
So it might the incentive for him not to flip be fear that Putin's going to have him killed?
No, I think at this point he'll probably have protective custody for a little bit here. I think that he'd be more worried about Trump's associates having him killed, because Putin doesn't really go after Americans very often, and the godfather of that mob would be Donald Trump. So I think he would be right now. He's so isolated. I don't see him being touched until this is all over, anyways, and or anyone having the ability to be around him or even near him until after this is all over, where it's too late. Who knows if Putin will still be president at that point? I'm guessing so. But I don't think that he has anything to worry about as of now, because he's not going anywhere, and it's going to be very hard to make a deal with the government because he made him go through trial, and it just legally is hard to make a deal and roll that stuff back no matter what he has.
Yeah.
So he's going to spend time in prison, and it's going to be a few years till he gets out no matter what. And so I think that he's going to be all right, because it's going to be hard to get to him when he's isolated at a constant, and the only free time he has when he goes out is with federal agents to go to trial or to go to someone's funeral possibly, and I don't even think he's going to be allowed to do that. So he screwed up when he tried to basically spread propaganda about his trial and tamper with witnesses and threaten them, and it backfired, and he's gonna at least be in jail till probably at least the end of the next trial, and then he'll be sentenced in 3 months from now, I think, for the first trial, and then after the second trial he'll have to face that sentence. So I don't think he's gonna he has no chance of being free this year, and so that's gonna sink in. That reality sinks in because I don't know what you think at that point, because Trump, if he runs and saves them, so many people, of course, they lie pathologically, so we don't know if it's true, but so many people have said that's a red line. He pardoned someone who committed crimes like this, then we're going to impeach him. I don't believe them when they say that. But at the same time, I think Americans will have had more than enough. Obviously, more than half of America already wants him to be impeached or removed from office or resign. And I think that time is coming, but it's really about guys like Manafort flipping. I think Cohen flipping makes it so that Manafort is pressed even more, because one of them has to sprint first. And if they have enough stuff on Trump from Cohen, then they're going to make an example out of Manafort, and he has no chance to make a deal. And so you're right about the one thing is that they both have to sprint and figure out how much stuff can we give them, how quickly, because I don't know who else is already talking to the special counsel's office. I know I have stuff that nobody else can give, but if they're not interested in it anymore, then that equals years in prison for me. And that reality is a very stark reality, especially for people who buy ostrich jackets.
Yeah. Right. Scott Dworkin with us, folks. 27 minutes. But now let me go to the next group of people. Can Cohen implicate the children? Ivanka, Donald Jr., Jared. I mean, because you clearly also called for them to be under further investigation. Can he implicate them?
Absolutely, and he's a guy that has traveled with them extensively, especially with Don Jr. Keep in mind, one of the photos I uncovered a while ago includes two of the members of the meeting from the Trump Jr. Trump Tower meeting. And Michael Cohen had not only extensive business relationships with those people that were in the Trump Tower meeting, he also had been the business partnership goes back years, and so he's going to know that those people were in the building, so he's going to be knowledgeable about that specific meeting, and that hurts not only Manafort, Kushner, and Don Jr. specifically, and so he can definitely turn the screws to them. And on top of that, I'm guessing he probably has tapes of Kushner and Don Jr. at the very minimum. So those two would be the key figures. I would assume that Don Jr. and Kushner, Cohen probably has evidence on them that they would want. But a lot of different people have come forward in regards to both Don Jr. and Kushner for different reasons, and it really seems like the next people in line, funny enough, are those two people. And I'm not sure if Ivanka and Eric are going to face anything at the moment, but they definitely were as much in on it than everybody else, because remember who ran the campaign. In reality, it was Manafort, Rick Gates, his children, and Kushner. And those were the senior people on the campaign. And those were the people who were the links to WikiLeaks. And those were the people who had access to these hacked emails in advance. And these are the people who coordinated and worked with the Russians to attack America, that allowed them to attack America, that didn't report it to the FBI. And these are the same traitors who kept up this sort of react now, as he destroys America and sit idly by as if they don't approve, even though they still work there. And so I think that all these people are going to – I think America's going to figure out they're criminals, especially if Cohen is able to turn the screws on Don Jr. and Kushner. I think Cohen will be applauded a little bit for once, especially if he were to help bring them down. And him and Trump's Russian associate, who's one of his best friends, Felix Sater, I think those two people can really implicate Don Jr., Ivanka, and Kushner.
It's a half-past hour. Scott Dworkin with us. Follow him on Twitter, folks, at Funder. Lastly, Scott, I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, and we'll definitely be talking more often in days and weeks to come. But let me give you 3 scenarios. Which one do you think is more likely? Indictment, impeachment, or resignation?
Resignation. I think at this point it's very I think what will happen is there will be evidence that pours out that proves that Donald Trump has been laundering money for Russian government and Russian mob-related people for over 30 years. And I think when that sort of stuff comes out, coupled with other women that he helped cover up and use payments with in regards to this campaign finance violation and election fraud. Keep that in mind. It's election fraud. I think when this all is pieced together and the media hammers it like they did with Hillary's emails, I think that he's going to face an angry mob of Americans that are asking for him to resign. And it'll be, the timing here is the GOP has 2 choices. They can stick with him and go down with the ship, or they can act as if they're all of a sudden they were on America's side the whole time. We didn't really know he was a criminal, but he's a criminal, and we turn on him completely like they have with others in the past very quickly. And not all of them need to do that, but just enough for there to be a forced resignation. And I can see that potentially happening just to avoid his children, being charged in the conspiracy as well. So my guess is resignation is the most likely, probably a threat. Now it's more likely than ever for the indictment potential to come out because he committed crimes. It's 100% for sure that he committed crimes that are felonies, that are election fraud. Cohen pled guilty under oath, and so it's very clear that Donald Trump is a criminal. It's just a matter of time before that all comes out, and I'm pretty sure that the Republican Party will be okay with President Pence until he's implicated in the Russia probe more so, and it's clear that he knew the whole time. He knew that Flynn was a paid-for agent for Turkey and Russia. And it goes on and on down the list. At the end of the day, I would guess that there's going to be hundreds of people connected to the Trump administration who are indicted, turn into rats, and are serve as witnesses against him. At the end of the day, it's not going to be a good time for Trump. I would assume that he, in the next month, he's going to be either forced to resign or they're going to have to impeach him because they don't want to lose the House and the Senate, because the second that happens, that's when Dems have subpoena power in January, and I'm guessing that we would turn the screws as hard as we possibly can, subpoena everything, investigate everything, and that's probably why everybody should vote for Democrats in November.
On that note, that powerful note, and we invite you all to do so. The Democratic Coalition, at the Dem Coalition, at Funder for Scott as well. Scott, we appreciate your vigilance on all of these issues, your knowledge and expertise on all of these issues. Folks, do follow him at Funder on Twitter. Scott, my brother, it's always good to talk to you, and we're going to stay in closer touch too, because I know that they're going to be daily developments. I go on there at 6 a.m. in the morning, but I literally didn't sleep last night. This is just so much. It's just so much here. So we got to just stay on top of it. But man, Thank you, man. You expect any other news today, even as early as today? What could possibly happen today?
I would expect Roger Stone to be indicted very, very soon. That's the next piece of the puzzle are the American co-conspirators. We've gone over the members of the Russian military, the members of the Russian government, and then the people who are outlets to that, who are contractors for the Russian government and the Russian military. The last piece of that puzzle is the American co-conspirators, and one of those people is Roger Stone. That coupled with it looks like Assange is going to be turned over to UK authorities and then deported to the United States, but we're not exactly sure if that's the route that's going to happen. But there's going to be a lot of these big moves that happen where you see the EU and the good part of the United States start to flex their muscles hard, showing that the president is not a king. And again, I think that Roger Stone is going to go down quick. I'm surprised that he hasn't been arrested yet, and that's so. I just think that the grand jury isn't done yet, and they have so many witnesses, which is just going to lead to an indictment for him. So even he said that he probably will be indicted. So that's what I would expect. I would not be shocked if that happened today, and that would make a lot of sense.
Well, he's said on my show, he said he was so a year ago that he was so pristine and clean. He dared to himself to be indicted. I dare them to indict me. So and we still have that video. So I have to share that with you. So we'll see what happens. Wow, that's something. Scott, thank you, man. Okay.
All right, keep it real. Thanks again for having me on your show.
All right, always, man. We'll do it again real soon, okay?
Sounds great.
Thank you, buddy. At Funder on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, check out Scott Dworkin. Hey, this is your wake-up call. Be more purposeful about how you use your money. Build black, buy black, and bank black to build wealth in the black community. Black people spend $1.2 trillion a year, but those dollars don't circulate in the community. There needs to be a sense of urgency to improve the economy. The Bank Black, Buy Black, and Buy the Block movements are so important, including purchasing and holding on to real estate in the community. Pay attention to where and how you spend, and remember to save and invest your money by moving your money to One United Bank, the largest black-owned and first black internet bank in America, and FDIC member. You join the Bank Black movement using your Mona, Amir, or Lady Liberty Visa debit cards with their powerful, proud images celebrating blackness. Shows the world that black money matters. Just go to oneunited.com. That's oneunited.com. Open an account and get your Visa debit card so you can bank black, buy black, and build black today. I know Manny couldn't wait to get on here. Manny, God bless you. Good morning. Get woke and vote. Get ready for impeachment.
Guess what? The pain. She's here. The pain is here. Yes, it is.
The pain.
Manafort, he's had his pain. He's been dealt his pain. And you know what's next? We got her pain. She bought a friend. The friend is Cohen. And the friend is going to take down Trump. Lanny Davis this morning said that there is evidence that Cohen has of conspiracy. Conspiracy. Not collusion, conspiracy. And guess what? Cohen taped everything. People don't understand. He was a mob lawyer.
Yeah.
This is the mob we're dealing with. Okay? And he taped everything, Mark. He has evidence of it. Lanny Davis is not going to spew off at the mouth about things that haven't happened. He's trying to get the sweetest deal he can in terms of, because the charges that Cohen was up for in the Southern District of New York were up to 65 years in jail. Right. He got off with 4 years on a plea deal, and Mueller ain't done with him yet. Mueller has we're not even talking about Mueller's investigation, so he's making nice with Mueller now because he knows that if he brings home conspiracy, It's over.
Yeah.
It's over, and people need to call their senators right now and say, no Supreme Court appointments, no bills, no business in the Senate until we are sure that our president is not just a crook, that he's a traitor. These are not the conditions under which you place a Supreme Court justice that is the tie-breaking vote in place. That is not to happen.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
We're ball game now, baby. It is time.
866 series 866-997-4748. You heard what he said about gestation on last night. Did you hear that?
Well, I did not hear that, but my understanding of how Mueller's going to proceed at this point is he's going to do shock and awe.
Yeah, but just hold it. But hold that point though, because I want you all to hear what he said at his speech last night. He talked about cooking a chicken and gestating. That's what you do with a chicken. Everybody, keep bringing it, Brittany. Everybody, take a listen. This is him last night.
We got to take time. It's got to gestate, right? The word gestate. It's like when you're cooking a chicken. Time. Turkey for Thanksgiving. My mother would say, 8 hours. I said, 8 hours? She made the greatest turkey I've ever had.
You got to gestate.
We got to take time. It's got to gestate, right? The word gestate. It's like when you're cooking a chicken. Time. Turkey for Thanksgiving. My mother would say, 8 hours. I said,
now, Manny, you know what gestate means, right?
Yeah, it means to give birth. Because I'm a physician.
Well, and the case. So I'm thinking that's Freudian. The day Cohen flips, he hasn't said anything about Cohen yet.
Yeah.
But the day Cohen flips, this fool's talking about gestating. Now, what does that mean? Cohen can talk about, whether or not the playmate was paid off because Brody made her pregnant or because Trump made her pregnant. Trump made her gestate.
Correct. And I believe that it's actually been floating around New York for a long time that part of the fixer job for Cohen was to cover up Trump's multiple pregnancies, of women that he cheated with,
right,
and multiple abortions. Multiple.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually, that's a side dish. I mean,
but that's still camp, because if that happened in the context of the campaign,
right,
that's still FEC. That's still FEC.
Correct.
And he's definitely cooked. We will see. We'll see what happens. Manny, thank you, man. As always, appreciate your call. When you live in the country in a small town, you know a few things the city types don't. Things like which back roads flood, the best fishing spots, the owner of the hardware store, and the country's best AAA quarterback. You also know the way things ought to be done. Dish was built to serve small town America, and because of that, they share your small town approach. Talk straight, deal fair. And most of all, listen, Dish knows that when you're out past the last cable line, you make even stronger connections, and so they strive to present real choices and provide real service, the kind you don't just expect but deserve. In small towns, you take care of each other, so let Dish take care of you with the latest technology, professional installation, better programming, and first-rate service from the retailer that lives in and supports your community. Dish listens. That's how they stay tuned in to you. Last before we go to break. So this is Trump. Some have said that he's now beginning to sound like me impersonating him. It's collusion. So listen how he says collusion. He actually does sound like me impersonating him saying collusion.
We're going to hit 4.1. Those people back there would have said, this guy, no good. Fake news. Fake news. How fake How fake are they? Fake news and the Russian witch hunt. We got a whole big combination. Where is the collusion? You know, they're still looking for collusion. Where is the collusion? Find some collusion. We want to find the collusion.
The collusion. Does that sound like your host?
We want to find the collusion.
Collusion. 866-99-SIRIUS. 866-997-4748. The number to call. We'll take our final break of the show, come back and wrap some things up. Thank you for joining us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, Make It Plain. And on Instagram, Minister with 2 T's. You can watch all of our conversations today on all of those platforms. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, Make It Plain. And on Instagram, Minister with 2 T's. You'll just see me. You won't see Brittany because she don't like to be on camera, but we'll work that out too. Nope. Quarter before the hour, Sirius XM Progress 127, Resistance Radio. Get woke and vote. Get ready for impeachment. This is MIT.